I went to sentencing after being assured by my attorney, you're getting 12 months probation, you're walking out of there. I dropped my daughter off the morning of my sentencing and said, where would you like to go to dinner that night? And unbeknownst to me at sentencing, I did such a lousy job with my judge that not only did he sentence me to 60 months in federal prison, but he remanded me to custody that day. And they came and they took my tie off, my shoelaces, and emptied my pockets and my cufflinks, and then took me into the bowels of the Philadelphia Detention Center where I was put in a holding tank, in a suit still, with 19 inner city violent offenders. And, the first thought they had was, oh my God, he's a sex offender, because what white little, bald guy with glasses comes into the tank in Philly unless the judge, sentenced him right away. Very unusual.
You expect, 12 months? Is that what that recommendation was?
AUSA stood up, the prosecutor stood up and recommended 12 months of home confinement.
And then instead you open up your big mouth. This is where other people can learn from your mistakes. Just keep your mouth shut.
Well, when you've already accepted a plea, don't get up there in front of a judge and try to explain what you did. No, you accepted the plea, own it, move on. I didn't have proper guidance. I went in there and became somewhat confrontational and became very angry at the judge and the system and the world. And guess what? I can be as angry as I wanted. I wasn't winning that fight.
What was it like when you realized you weren't going to dinner with your daughter, but you were going into the bowels of the Philadelphia jail?
First of all, I didn't know where I was going. They handcuff you and they shackle you. Then they take you downstairs to a long corridor. And it was scary. It was really scary sitting in this tank. I was the only little Jewish white guy that is in a suit, and it was a holding tank. Everybody's looking at you. It took about 45 minutes for them to pull me out of there and start processing me through. And I remember the officer said to me, I sat down in the chair and he said, do you fear for your life? And I didn't know how to answer him. Well, of course, I was scared beyond words. What do you mean, do I fear for my life? Well, it's a standard question to ask. And I said, gotta be honest with you, I'm a little scared. He said, well, are you a member of a gang? Are you suicidal? I said no to the latter two questions. He said, well, I just need to figure out where to place you. I said, well, can I go home? And he said, no, that's not an option. My mind was spinning and I was genuinely scared. So after about an hour and a half, gave me some towels and some linens, and they sent me up to the 7th floor where guard said, okay, you're in cell number, whatever it was. And I walked in the cell and there's this young guy, a young black fellow, 30 years old, with 2 teardrops on his eyes. And he wouldn't talk to me at first. He said, I'm so-and-so, I'm your cellmate. And that was it. And I'm sitting there, we're kind of having an innocuous conversation. He told me he was sentenced 30 years to life for fentanyl. 30 minutes later, I see, and I'm facing him. He looks up above me and he shakes his head like this. And I turned around and I saw another guy from that pod walk out and just thumbs up. And I'm thinking, what's going to happen? Thumbs up. Is that their sign to kill me? But I was afraid. And he said, all right, you're cool. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're not a chomo. I said, what's a chomo? You're not a child molester. I said, I could have told you that. He said to me, I never met a Jew before. Thinking, what am I going to say? And that's when I said, well, I never met a gang member before. I figured if I didn't die at that point, I was fine. So we hit it off for 6 weeks.
Everyone who's watching this, you have a story to tell. It could be something that happened that you're ashamed of, that you wish never happened, that you don't want to revisit. And I'm not necessarily telling you, we got to get this out so you can process it or whatever. No, that story that you have inside of you, one, there's a way to reframe it where you can start to see it as perhaps the best thing or one of the best things that ever happened to you. And also, perhaps you can share that story with others. If you have a story that you want to tell, whether you just want to tell it to me and have me, listen to it and give you some sense of how it might fit into life, your life, or whether you might help me want to bring it out into the world the way I'm bringing it out, reach out to me. My information's in the show notes. Anyway, take a listen to the podcast and I will post more about it forward.